This time we're going to start off with, we finished taking apart the pump tube barrel and the forearm, the four-stock pump lever assembly. And once again, we need the roll pin punches. In this case, 5/32. These right here. Get this 9-piece set at Home Depot for 13 bucks and change. And 5/32 or thereabouts, it seems to be pretty popular for the size for the roll pins. Which is this little bugger right here. It's rolled from a rectangular piece of thick steel that's less than a 1/16 of an inch thick, but it would be heavy enough to make a buttstock with. I wish I could find some. It's blued inside now too. Blued with something that stays on pretty hard, because that thing was tight in there. I'd have my wife hold down the other end of the pump tube while I took geologist's hammer, bricklayer's hammer, whatever it is, and spang. It'll give it a couple of good hard smacks to knock it loose. You know, you can't use, twice I tried to use this one I got for $6.99 at Harbor Freight Tools up on the corner there. You can see it's plastic on one end, hard rubber on the other. Nice handle and everything. The plastic and the rubber absorbs too much of the blow, apparently, because you need this with, oh, and that's, you see how close that is to the diameter of the roll pin, the punch. You got to match the diameter of the roll pin with the punch, okay? So that you can take that thing and smack it good and hard. It's that sharp smack, not so much how much you're putting behind it, that makes that pin start coming loose. Just a good smack, where there's nothing there absorbing the blow, like plastic or vinyl, which would be good for tacking leather on an old sofa, but not in this case. And looking at some of this black dirt here, I would say that that's moly lube, moly paste, that they use for an assembly lube here as well. And you're going to need these. This goes in the gas tube, barrel slides through here, and right there is a 2mm Allen screw. You need to get that out. Magnet on the end of the screwdriver. Magnetize the handle, it's stuck like that. Anyway, it's like about a slot car size screwdriver, maybe a little big for that. Out of this set of Pittsburgh metric ones I also got at Harbor Freight Tools. Stuff comes in darn handy. And here is the piston. Now you got to take that out, and there's a new one that goes on there with a seal, a forward seal and everything. It's a seal that goes like right there in this new piston cup, whatever you call that thing. Piston cup. Anyway. And then here's the valve. There's the screw hole. And I'm pretty sure this fell out of the barrel, and right there where that recessed hole is, that is where the piece of what do you call that too? Not bathroom tubing, doggone it. The tubing for the water, the refrigerator water line that you cut for a seal of the gasket goes in there, which in turn fits over the end right there. That's the gasket. That's the gas port. So since there's a seal on here, I'm guessing this thing slides back and forth to let the gas out, because there's no pinholes anywhere around here under this one I can see. Now there's a real little pinhole right there, which is hollow right there. There's no valve stem, so I don't know. And it's hollow on end of that thing, so some stuff fell out, got blown out or whatever, so I'm assuming that's how it goes together, like that. I'll have to find the exploded diagram. I'm pretty sure I downloaded, and look at that just to make sure I reorient everything properly. And I thought these little numbers right there said 68, but now it looks like 08 or 08. Maybe even 9. So 08, I can't imagine October 68 or 69. I thought it was June 68, 6/8. I got pictures, a couple close-up pictures I'll show, so somebody can help me make up my mind what I'm looking at on that one. But that's the end cap for the pump tube, and the barrel goes through here with a 2mm Allen screw that holds it in. I'll show you all this stuff as we go through the slideshow working on it. And we will, we got close-ups of this too. Now here is where the forearm levers and all that go, and the piston slides through in here, and the valves. Here's the hole for the valve and everything. And the gas port. Screw hole, breech screw that goes through the breech opening in the barrel. And that's the gas port basically. And so as you'll see in the pictures, there's two little lines right here where the breech fits around, the die cast breech halves clamp around right there, and you see here where the forearm stock's been banging into it right there when you pump it. So I only need to glue it back to about here because it's all rusty right here. There's rust coming through the bluing. I wasn't going to, now I have to basically. This is real nice right here, so I'll just touch that up with some bluing and a Q-tip, since that's inside, and I'll oil it and let it cure and everything. And from about the end of my thumb there out that way is going to have to be de-blued, de-rusted, polished, etc., so I can make it look right. I just won't mess with the bluing on the inside there. I'll leave that alone. Just do it vertically, and you can if you're careful, you can keep from messing that up. So basically, we'll put from the receiver forward back together with the new barrel and seal upgrade and piston upgrades and all that stuff. And I can get back on the buttstock, and I have to. Doesn't matter if I have to buy a whole sheet. I'm going to find a scrap dealer somewhere where I can find a piece of steel that's the thickness I know I need to work with to build a shape with hand tools that'll retain its shape when it's in place, and and we can get that butt plate going. I love the idea of that 1892 Winchester style butt plate on that thing, because it doesn't have one. It's just got that it's got the curves cut in the end of the buttstock, and that's it. It just doesn't look complete to me. It needs to look complete, so we'll put a butt plate on it. So that said, let's get to it. As you can see here, that parts bag is growing pretty serious. Make sure I save everything. I show the tap hammer, the plastic tap hammer here, but I actually used a bricklayer's hammer and a 30 seconds roll pin punch on that roll pin you see right there that it's pointing at. And here first I take out the 2mm screw through the barrel band that holds the barrel in place. That way we can get it out of the way to pound on the other thing. And here we take out the breech screw and the breech gas port gasket, which is actually metal. I was surprised there. That way you can see where they go. We got them out of place. And here we just slide the barrel out to the right there through that barrel band. Now that we got those separated, you can see the little indentation in the barrel where the set screw goes. And the gas port and breech screw port in the breech opening where you put the pellet basically. And after knocking the roll pin out, you can see the relative position of the parts and the front of the lever where it goes. And this, I thought said 668, but it actually looks like 09 to me and my wife. I had my wife look at it. It's an 8 or a 9. That's definitely an O or a 0. And here you can see the pump piston on the lever and the pin and all that, where everything goes relatively. Pin goes through that bushing on the right side there. Here's the end of the pump piston, which is going to get replaced with that black part there. And this shot out of the end of the barrel when I was pumping the lever, doing something while I was working on it. And here it goes on the end of the gas valve here, the end that faces back towards you, in other words. Which I used this 22 caliber cleaning rod, the first section, to push it out through the end of the tube. And again, here's a look at the end of the valve where you see the little pinhole, all that oily, pasty stuff burst. You can see the burst pattern. That's in the gas tube, so it's not from firing. And here's the other end of the valve that faces back towards you with a seal on it. I just showed this here. As you can see that the one on the right pushes against the valve on the left to pump it up. And you can see where everything basically goes here, how they're oriented in the pump tube. And there, that black sleeve on the left there, it has the gas port on it. I showed you before where the port seal goes. It wasn't plastic, and this one is actually machined metal. And you can see the condition of the pump tube here. The half on the left from that hole there with the lines around it goes on the inside of the receiver housing, so it's looking brand new. And here you can see the receiver housing with the saddles for the barrel and then the gas tube, and where the gas tube goes relatively. And to the right of that hole is the part that faces out that you can see, and you can see rust coming through the bluing. It's been scraped off and everything where you've been pumping it and all that. So I have to blue it from there forward. Okay, and here I'm starting to get the stuff together to blue the pump tube. And I use that water bottle, a half-gallon jug full of water to rinse with now into that bucket. And I used a degreaser and on that, and then rinsed it off. Forgot to put the gloves on. I had to wash my fingers. Boy, my fingers started stinging. But you can see there how it affects the polish on that metal. But that's okay. And you can see here where I tried to feather the edges around that tube, which is on the bottom here from the gas tube. Just give you an overall look at what it looks like after you use the cleaner degreaser. And rinse it, and then you got to dry it. And here's where the cotton balls I used to clean the inside of that pump tube, and then well, that was before I polished it. Okay, I'm sorry. First polishing the 400 grit. My bad. Out of sync with myself. You see how shiny that is already with the 400 grit emery paper. It's shining real nice, but we got a ways to go yet. And next is 600 grit. I just used the cleaner degreaser before I started any of this, looking back to so I don't rub anything into the metal. And 800 grit. 800 grit, it's starting to get pretty serious. The shine is definitely starting to come out. In 1000 grit, you start seeing more details of my reflection in the metal. That's looking really nice. I love getting that metal all polished up pretty. 1500 grit. Light coming in the window shines like a flash. The bottom of the tube looks better than the top for some dumb reason. Guess I spent more time around that opening. And here's 2000 grit. Look at that. That's like a friggin' mirror. It got somewhat behind a cloud and the flash went off. So you can actually see the depth of the shine on that metal. And finally, the 2500 grit emery paper. I always go from 400 to 2500. Hands are sore by the time I get all that done, too, let me tell you. But that's the way it used to be done. And you can see how shiny it is right there. Getting out the bluing stuff and everything. I got to clean it. That's after the clear degreaser, what the cotton ball looked like. Took a little bit of metal out of the surface. And then rinsing it with water. You have to rinse after all these chemicals. A lot of oxalic acid and stuff like that. And this is the carnage after bluing and rinsing the first time. I used that quart of permablue in a little 3-ounce hefty cup. So I pour a little bit in at a time and hold the tube on that blue lid there. Here it is drying in front of my little heater there for just a little bit, not too long, just to warm it up a bit. And with what little bluing I got left in that cup after I get done rubbing it on with a cotton ball, or not a cotton, the folded 3-inch Otis patches, I poured Resto over it. And this is after rinsing and drying the first coat, sitting on top of the rinse bucket. And here we are getting loaded up to do it again. And I take the Otis 3-inch cleaning patches and fold them over a couple times so they're like little padded triangles. And that Planter's peanut can lid there I use to set the tube on so it catches the runoff while I'm rubbing the bluing on that I soak into the patch, and I keep going back and redipping it. And here, after using the jug and the bucket to rinse it off again, the part on the right goes inside the receiver, so I went over that once real quick, and then I just sort of left it. Got maybe 2 coats. Then after five rounds of that, I've hosed it down with rem oil. Don't rub the rem oil on, spray it on liberally. It'll sheet off perfectly by itself over the course of a couple of days. Here's the rig I made out of twist ties and duct tape and a handle off a stirring stick to hold it so I could hang the thing up and let it cure for a couple of days. Just a couple shots here to show you what it looks like while it's hanging there curing. That's some of my beer brewing and bottling stuff hanging there. Dang, sun went out on me. It's hard to get a sunny day in March around here. And the receiver has to be drilled. I don't know if you can see the little marking pen marks there where I drill the holes for those MOE Picatinny rails. And here was this morning, the next day, about the middle of the day, how it's curing. It's definitely looking better all the time. And here is the special walnut number 224 Minwax that matched the stock color real close. And we'll be using that to put a couple of coats of stain on it. And here's after sanding with 600 grit. Just to give you an idea of what she looks like, sanded and cleaned up a little more before I stain it. It cleans it up and lightens the surface, evens the tone, and smooths things out and everything. And here's it. It has to cure for 15-20 minutes, the first coat here. I used a 1-inch foam trim brush to do that. And you better time it. And that's after it's wiped off the excess 18 minutes later, and turning it around here so you can get an overall look. That chipped out part looks pretty good. And look at the flames on the right side of that buttstock. Isn't that beautiful? That is gorgeous. And here's looking at it from the cheek piece down, so you can kind of see it goes over the top too. That is just beautiful. And here I've brushed on the second coat of stain. I accidentally let it sit 21 minutes rather than the 15 I intended. And those baby wipes I use for various things are also great for wiping up the stain that drips on the little TV tray there. And Ziploc snack bags are great to put the little foam trim brushes in. That's a 1-incher there. Keeps them moist. And here it is 21 minutes later after I wipe the excess stain off, so you can get an idea what it looks like. Now look at that. There's those aren't sanding scratches in there either, by the way. But the flaming and everything in the background is more even. Light shine out there, so it looks lighter than it actually is, but it shows more detail. And here we are going over the top of the stock to the left side. The top and the left side are kind of plain, lighter looking. It's got the streaking in there too, but the flames aren't as good. And since this is oil instead of spray stain, you can't even it out. You got soft spots and hard spots. And here's the 4-stock, 100% original. So you can see the flaming and the tone of the color tone of the stain and all that. All 100% original. Just I wanted to match the buttstock to this part because the flaming is so wonderful on there. Got worn darker from my hand, you know. So you can see the buttstock's going to match that a lot closer now. And here's the bottom of the buttstock. The flames go right over the bottom. That's cool. I like that. And another use for junk mail, those big lacquered postcards with the ads on them are good drip trays. Here's a shot of the same side of the stock, the way it came from the factory, and what it looks like now when you bring out the details. And here's a close-up shot of those streaks. Those aren't sanding scratches, the secondary streaks that sort of look like the cloud bands on Jupiter, that wavy, swirly kind of quality tone. And here's the pump tube after it's had time to cure or oiled for a couple of days, and I wiped it off the first time. Not bad, but it's got a little bit of curing to do yet. And this is the rig I made out of twist ties and duct tape and the handle off the stirring stick to hang gas tubes and such like that from while they're curing or the paint's drying or whatever. And one of the two coat hangers I bent to make hanger hooks you could use in various ways. And a medium lacquer thinner and a small jar some vanilla beans came in to soak the barrel band in, thinking that would soak the paint loose. Didn't work. Softened it up maybe, but I had to wind up using a green Scotch-Brite pad to clean the metal up. Works pretty good because I'm gonna paint over it anyway. It's alloy, so you can't glue it. So that's cleaned up fairly well to paint over with this Rust-Oleum gloss black enamel, corrosion proof besides. And here's how I had to modify the hanger to hang up the buttstock, to use Q-tips and True Oil in the bolt hole. Had to do that first before I did anything else. And here's, well, I had to stain it rather, I'm sorry, I had to stain it. That's after I wiped off the stain inside and let it dry and everything. So it at least match up to the outside. If somebody happens to look, you know. So that's good enough for that job. Paint drip hanging off the barrel loop there, which I caught with a Q-tip to let it soak in. Should have wiped the rest of the drip. I didn't pick it up and look at it. And here it is as it's drying. And all dried and ready to go. There's the drip on top there in front. You can see it. Darn it. Other than that, it looks good. And the 6-0 date stamp is very clear. I was careful not to overspray that part. And here's some of a look at the constituent parts after being blued and stained and painted and all that. The oil on that stock, that oil stain kind of left a little sheen too. And here's the other stuff I needed to use the true oil. And pattern number 2 for the butt plate. I actually had to get out and measure this one and change the design of it to what I know will be easier to bend next time out of a thinner piece of material. And took the 3-inch shotgun pads back there and folded them in half twice so I could put the first coat of true oil on, Q-tip inside the bolt hole and all that stuff first so it would dry, and then like I hung upside down the other way like I did the last time. And this is after the first coat of true oil on the stock, outside of the stock itself. Looking pretty good. A little wet sanding here. You can see I wet sanded just a little too deep there. I wasn't paying as close attention as I should have, like I did here, to make sure I don't go through with a clear coat. You don't want to remove stain, just edges of the sags and runs so you can kind of blend them a little better. I used that gun patch to wipe that stuff on. I was really careful to wipe it on thin, and it still wants to sag and run as thick as that stuff is. Then you can see one of the streaks, you can still kind of see it, but it doesn't look as bad as you'll see later. Tried to give different angles of view here so you can see how medium brown it really is. And right here I used a Q-tip in the grooves on the forestock and less material to wipe one coat on the forestock just to seal the color in. You see right through this picture here, you could better see the colors more closely match between the buttstock and the forestock, sealing in tiger stripes and stuff like that. And here you can both together. Finally got a decent amount of sunlight this morning on April 3rd to get pictures of how close they match. Looking darn good. The bluing on the gas tube looks good too. And first off, I had to put 2 of the screws in to hold the 2 receiver halves together so I could drill the holes. I had to first mark the holes with a Dremel and an aluminum oxide bit here to make a little dimple for the drill to sit in. And I put 1 screw in and then used it to align the other one. It slipped a little on that one. It might have slipped about 2 millimeters, darn it. Anyway, here's the kind of dip I have to make for the tip of the drill bit to stay in place. You kind of see the markings there from marking the holes. And put the screw in and make sure I can line the other one up exactly the way it should be. And drill that one in with that little sight groove there for the BB magazine. It's easier to get them lined up straight. That seam in the front was tough. And here's the valve in a disassembled exploded view, so you can see how everything goes. Little plastic piston. There's a piece of aluminum rod for a spacer between the piston and the spring. Little shot of the valve main housing there. I tried to show the inside because it's got a unique little cup machined in on the inside of the front surface there. Couldn't get a decent shot of that. Flash didn't work. And here I am pulling the seals off and putting the seals and laying the seals out in their relative positions so I can match them up later. That's important. You got to get those right. And here's where I cleaned up all the greasy, grimy gopher guts off that aluminum spacer. Got a bit of a cup on it on one end, so I put that under the piston. I hit it with a little 600 grit emery paper. Just get the burrs off it and slick it up a little bit. And here's what I used to clean up the brass valve housing parts and the little spacer and all of that. Those seals and that white plastic piston are going to be replaced. And here they are replaced. And again in their relative positions. And I oiled that spacer with a little pellet gun oil before I put the piston in, dimpled side down, and then the spacer on top of that. And you had to use pliers and a piece of green latex back there to screw the two halves together so it would contact the exhaust valve on the end would contact the seal in the middle so the whole housing seals up proper. And the seals on the left there are the used ones. A little close up here. And the valve reassembled, the new seal on that end piece. And the black thing on the end goes over the end of the valve. And that round recess there is where the breech gasket goes. And it's metal on this one. Rebuild kit gave me hard black plastic, but I got a metal one, so I'm putting that back in. Okay, and here I used a Dremel and a cutoff wheel to cut that through the piston cup and that brass bushing thing. Used a large US bladed screwdriver to crack it loose, and used a tap hammer to press the new piston on down to the felt minus the washer. You have to take that washer off too, so it looks like this. That's about 3 inches long there. I had to use the 1/2 inch wrench on that little nut right there to loosen it up so I could crank the piston back into where it's 1/32 of an inch over 2 7/8. Diamond dust grinder was crap. The 1/8 inch drill here, the 1/8 inch shank was better for cutting slots in there below the drilled holes for those plates that mount the MOE Picatinny rails in place with the screws. Here, I cut a piece of latex I got a long strip of from the rehab nurses to line the forestock with, and the double-sided tape there was worthless. I had to fire up the hot glue gun to get it in there. In theory, that'll stop that loud pop when you cock it. It's slamming into the gas cylinder. Here's the glue gun. I thought it would also help preserve the bluing on the pump tube as well, with not having bare wood slamming into it all that time. Here it is glued in place. Okay, well, I'm up to a little over 35 minutes already, and I'm getting bogged down in all kind of nitpicky details that have to be done before I can reassemble it and show you how all that goes. But got pretty far already, just a couple more little things I gotta do. So next time for sure we should be able to reassemble this thing and test fire it. And then we will get back to the, in fact it's in the bag right below the tripod, the 760D Pump Master I'm rebuilding for my Marine brother. I just need to get the stuff I need to do the black overwash on a plastic stock so it fills in the grain like the Power Master Variant 4 with the ABS stocks. I got that black paint or something they used to fill in the little grain details and the checkering so it kind of stands out like real wood that's worn from use. Well, I'm going to do that to the darker brown styrene stocks on the Variant 8 760D. And then I got enough True Oil left once that dries to coat the plastic stocks with so that it gets a nice shine to it and a little more of a honey color to it. Makes wood grain glow and gives it different details depending on what angle you're looking at it from. So it should wake up that like walnut brown styrene the Variant 8 uses. Make it look a little nicer. It's too plain Jane. All the pictures I got there, I keep looking at it, and I got to do the overwash and clear coat on it. The True Oil has about the same color and consistency as real maple syrup. Real maple syrup isn't that thick, but it's got like a dark honey amber sort of color to it. So we'll see how that looks in another episode. Because once I get this one done, we have to change to the XP tuned QB78 valve, the hottest one Archer has. It also fits the 160, 167, all those. And then we'll be retesting 4 different pellets, including the RWS Super Point Extras that the thing liked the most. Was this? Yeah, that's a 22. And I got more. I got a record FPE out of that 162. That's now the Super Points gave a high FPE of 11.71, and the Gamma Hunter Impact bested that to 11.76. So with the XP tuned valve, I might be able to push that to right up around 12 FPE or more. We'll see which one winds up equaling the UK legal 12 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle before you need FT, I think they call it, firearms license basically for the hotter air rifles that we're allowed to take for granted over here. So we'll see how that goes. But next time we should be able to finish up this thing within a half hour, 35 minutes. So being Sunday, beautiful blue day, get your behinds outside and do some shooting. Some plinking anyway, target shooting, bench rest, whatever. So good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll see you again right here.